Welcome to the Westerosi Free Folk Podcast. I'm Ryan. As always, I'm here with Mark. Today we've got an exciting episode. We got our stump questions to lead it off. We got some mid-season awards and our thoughts on the mid-season awards. And we've also got the usual episode review, Game of Thrones, Episode 5, Season 6, The Door. As always, you can check out old podcasts on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and www.wildlingsports.com. So let's get it started with just an overall ranking. Overall, 1 to 10, what do you think of the episode, Mark?
Give it a 9. It was
9?
Yeah, it was one of those high points of the season thus far. One of the better episodes that the show has done, especially the ending and everything like that. That was great.
Yeah, I'm gonna go probably about an 8. The ending was one of the best scenes in all 5.5 seasons we've had so far, in my opinion. Some of the scenes in the middle were just okay. I thought were pretty good. But that last quarter of the episode just makes up for it all and just pushes it upward.
Yeah, definitely.
So as always, we each selected 2 questions about the episode to try to stump them. I think you are winning 1-0 here so far. So why don't you do your first question?
My first question might be one that you might have picked too. I said, what is Lady Crane's preferred drink that Arya intends to poison?
She's talking. She's in a thing. She's talking with the Tyrion actor. Rum, right? Is it rum?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. John, in the round table scene at the wall, with Davos and all them and Sansa, John at the end names 5 smaller northern houses they were going to try to rally. Can you name 3 of them? 3 of the 5.
The Glovers.
Yep.
The Hornwoods.
Yep.
And
yeah, there's 3 others.
The Mormonts.
The Mormonts. There you go. The other 2 were the Serwins and the Masons.
I couldn't think of the Masons when I knew it was with an N.
Are the Masons even in the book? I don't remember them at all.
No.
Okay.
I read about them and I was like, where did they come from?
Yeah. Okay. I couldn't. All the other houses I remember. Okay. Nice.
I was going to ask you that same question.
Were you? Nice.
I'll change it up a little bit. Okay. At the end of the same scene, John mentions a number of houses that combined, the forces would match those of the Umbers, Boltons, and Karstarks. Do you know what the number he gives is?
The number of houses?
Yeah, combined.
Seven?
Says 2 dozen.
No. 2 dozen?
That's 2 dozen.
Wow. Yeah, that's way higher.
Yeah, sorry, I keep asking you numbered questions.
That's okay. I think I've got a hard one here for you next.
Go for it.
What was the name of the Red Priestess?
Kinvara.
Damn, that wasn't hard at all. All right, 2-0 here so far. 1-0 here today. I'm going to so let's see. I had a third one out there. Let's see if you would have known this one. All right. Throughout the seasons, we've gotten the name drops of the books. A Game of Thrones, A Feast for Crows. We got the name drop of the upcoming book, The Winds of Winter. Do you know who gave it? Who said it in the show?
Sansa?
No, Cersei, Lady Crane, the woman playing Cersei during the play.
Really?
Yeah.
Say it in the play?
She says it during the play while they're playing.
Interesting.
I should have gone with that one. Okay. All right, so we got some midseason awards here. We're going to start with the big one, MVP of the season. Who do you have as the MVP so far? 5 episodes into the season.
Well, I picked 2 characters.
Okay.
I guess I'm going to have to pick one here.
Yeah, you're going to have to narrow it down.
MVP of the season thus far is Sansa Stark.
Sansa. Okay.
What do you think?
That's a good. Who was the second one you had chosen?
The High Sparrow.
The High Sparrow. That's good too. I'm gonna go. My answer MVP of the season is Melisandre.
Whoa.
She brings back Jon. I was gonna go with the Lord of Light because really the Lord of Light brought back Jon, but I don't know if he's technically a character. So Melisandre brings back Jon. She seems to be the person that is connecting some of these people up in the north. Davos is connected to Melisandre. Jon is connected to Melisandre. Now, Davos and Jon never really, they had maybe 1 or 2 scenes before this season. But, that was it.
Wow, I did not expect that one at all coming from you.
I'm not a big Melisandre fan, but I got to say she's the MVP so far.
It's all she's done. She's on the periphery of every other scene.
That's all you got to do. You bring back Jon Snow and I'm good.
Slumped and moody and brooding at the dinner table in the north.
And plus, you live 4 times as long as everybody else. You'll be my MVP. There you go. She's got a lot of world experience.
She seems like she's still struggling with her faith, even though she just brought back Jon.
Yeah, she does a little bit, and she picks Stannis wrong. She's on the mend. I also think she's become a little bit more likable this season as well. So least valuable player this season, I got to go with Doran Martell. I expected big plans from Doran, and 1 episode in, he's out. He's done, pushing to the side. Not a big fan of Doran there.
Yeah, it was just as if the producers were like, man, we really screwed up in Dorne.
Yeah, let's just get rid of it.
Guys. Yeah, I was really disappointed in that whole part too. My least valuable player of the season thus far is Tommen.
Yeah, I like that answer too.
Just because, he always gets pushed aside. He's being played like a fiddle. The High Sparrow seems like he's dug his claws in him, and he's becoming like this, Baelor the Blessed character who's gonna be caught between the faith and the crown. It's just he's a weakling.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so since last season, or since the beginning of the season, who do you think has improved their position the most around the world?
Most improved position is my MVP, and that's part of why I picked her as my MVP, would be Sansa Stark.
Yeah, that makes sense. You go from being on the run, being a capture, to almost regaining your agency a little bit and starting to try to form an army up north.
Yeah, she's a power player now. Put Littlefinger in his place.
Yeah, she did. All right, so most improved, I got to go with Euron Greyjoy. He goes from technically being an outcast, sailing around the world, to now all of a sudden after episode 5 here, leading the Ironborn and supposedly, meeting up with Dany and being almost king of the Westeros.
Except for one little problem.
What's that?
Yara and Theon just stole all his ships.
That's true, but
he's getting baptized.
Yeah, but maybe he'll have those 15 guys make 1,000 ships in an episode. We'll see.
Our islands are going to turn into Easter Island.
They might.
And use up all their trees, and they're all going to die.
They are. Okay, so who's had the biggest drop off? Whose position has dropped off the most?
I pick Ned Stark.
Ned Stark. Okay, I like that answer.
The legend of Ned Stark has been demystified thus far this season with Tower of Joy scene. His honors in question, and we kind of see it come full circle there with the play in this week's episode, where he's he's part of the laughing stock that is Westeros.
Yeah, and it's even outside of Westeros there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I gotta go. Biggest drop off. I gotta go. We're gonna stay in the Iron Islands, and we're gonna go with Yara there, aka Asha. Beginning of the season, she's supposedly the heir to the Iron Islands with Balon. She's a famed reaper and raver in the Iron Islands. She commands respect from everybody, and now all of a sudden she's a wanted woman. She still commands a fleet, but according to Euron, it won't be enough to save her.
Yeah, it's fairly precipitous drop off. I'm really interested to see where they're going with her and Theon for the rest of the season. Be interesting to see how it plays out.
So the next one we have here, who's the Rookie of the Year? Best new character.
The best new character is someone I'm really looking forward to seeing more of, and it's Small John Umber.
Oh, yes. That's good. Good answer. Not my answer, but a good answer. I approve.
His scene with Ramsay was the first time we've gotten to see Ramsay kind of get played a little bit, and Small John's just like challenging him on the spot. You can tell Ramsay was slightly uncomfortable, but still mischievous.
Yeah, he made it work.
Yeah, go for it.
Best Rookie of the Year here, best new character. I got to go with Euron. We're giving a few Iron Islands answers here right in a row, but he comes off on the scene, barges on the scene, and we'll talk a little bit about our feelings about the King Smoot a little later on, but it may not have been my favorite scene ever. The first scene with him and Balon on the bridge, loved that scene, loved the dialogue in that scene, and he's certainly come on with a presence here. So this one, I have a feeling we might have the same answer here, but who had the best fight? What was the best fight scene?
The best fight scene was the smaller version of the Tower of Joy fight scene from the books, where you had 5 take on 2. Was it 6 versus 2? 6 versus 2.
6 versus 2.
And I thought that was an amazing fight scene. I think we went on about it on length a few podcasts ago. But definitely probably one of the best fight scenes in the entire series thus far. Yeah,
I'm going to have to agree. Just seeing Arthur Dayne there, actually getting a wrap up of how the Tower of Joy ended before they kind of move into the actual tower. How the fight ended was thrilling as well. So, what was the most exciting area?
For me, actually the most exciting area and the one I'm probably most interested in is Bran's entire storyline. So above the wall, the True North, with Bran, the Three-Eyed Crow, Mira, and most importantly, Bran's visions.
Yeah, what's going to happen with those?
Exciting aspect of the show thus far, and we see it come to the head at the end of this last episode with the White Walkers, and I feel like that's the most exciting part of the show thus far.
Yeah, I'm going to move a little bit south, and I'm going to go to the wall, only because I think we've had a few more scenes at the wall than north of the wall. I could definitely see the north of the wall overtaking this in the last half of the season here. Yeah. But you have Jon's resurrection. You have 1-1 in the Night's Watch, or 1-1 in the Wildlings come in and defeat the Night's Watch there. You get Sansa coming in. You get Brienne. You kind of get a confluence of a bunch of people, and I think that's gonna be what we see in the upcoming season and the upcoming seasons to come as well. We're gonna see these people kind of come together in different areas.
Good pick.
What was the best episode so far?
This one, The Door. Can't argue with that. Maybe last episode might be pretty close to it, but I mean, how can he beat the ending of this past episode? I mean,
yeah.
And not only just the ending with Hodor and the White Walkers and everything like that, but we get the origin story of the White Walkers. I mean, that's pretty big. I mean, I feel like it's really moved the story forward.
Pretty big reveal. I'm going to have to go with last week, though, the Book of the Stranger.
Wow.
like I said earlier, I love the end of the episode. I loved a few of the middle parts that we'll touch on later. But I just think as a whole, from start to beginning, we get the Stark reunion, we get Danny. I got to go with the Book of the Stranger there.
Interesting.
Worst two. So we got two more here to wrap it up. Worst scene so far this season.
I have two. Can I give two?
Yeah, go ahead.
The two worst scenes by far are the death of Doran Martell and Arya Hota at the hands of Ellaria and the Sand Snakes. And the runner-up would be Tyrion at the table with Missandei and Grey Worm trying to start a conversation.
Yeah.
I didn't really like that scene too much. I much rather would have had 5 more minutes of Tower of Joy.
Yeah. So I'm gonna stay with you there. The worst scene by far is Dorne for me. Now the Dorne scene. The one good part, it was the only Dorne scene we got this season so far. And if it turns out that the producers just, like you said earlier, thought, well, we really messed up the Dorne, we better just kill everybody off quick and never go back there, then it might move to be one of my favorite scenes by the end of the season here. So lastly here, best scene so far this season. This is a tough one for you here.
It's not really that tough. I mean, I feel I have to go with the hold the door scene. I have to go with that. But if that hadn't happened this last episode, my favorite scene is Euron and Balon on the bridge. That whole conversation, and then just how it went down, and all the little things that the producers the director put in that scene of their movements and their discussions, and their basically challenging each other. I thought that was a great scene.
Yeah. I like you. I'm going to go with the cave battle scene here. Closely behind, obviously, we have the Tower of Joy, and we have the big Stark reunion last episode. But the cave battle, not only with Hodor, but you have Leaf in there, you have Summer, you have the Three-Eyed Crow, Mira, you got a whole bunch of folks down there. And we'll talk in depth about that scene a little later on. So those are our awards. We'll kind of circle back at the end of the year to end season awards, see what's changed, see what's different. You can check those out at wildlingsports.com. And leave comments, give us your opinion. What did we get wrong? What did we get right? So let's get right into this. Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 5, The Door. We're going to go ahead and we're going to push all the smaller brand scenes to the end and talk about that as a whole. But the episode opens up with Sansa and Littlefinger and Molestown, and you have Brienne there as well. Sansa, talking to Littlefinger about what happened. I was originally okay on the scene, and then after a rewatch, I liked it a lot more. Sansa's speech became even more powerful the second time I watched it. Some of the quotes I liked: "You freed me from the monsters who murdered my family and gave me to other monsters who murdered my family." I really liked that quote from her, and I really also liked the quote where she said, "Either you didn't know and you're an idiot, or you did know and you're my enemy." Sansa really is coming into her own here. She has been this entire season. I also really can't help but think, is Littlefinger playing her still a little bit? It also feels like he might be.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I mean, I thought the scene was incredibly powerful. I thought Sansa Stark really came into her own here and kind of owned it. Yeah. But at the same time, I think you're right. I think Littlefinger still has and still kind of maybe got the best of that situation because of the information he provided her and kind of how he challenged her when he said along the lines of, you mean John's army?
Yeah, your half-brother.
Your half-brother. And then you see that kind of reflected in her behavior at the dinner table or the table talk later on at the wall, where she not only lies to John, but she also basically likens him to Ramsay Bolton as being a bastard.
Yeah.
So he kind of planted there.
Yeah, I really also, you talked about her challenging, or Baelish challenging her a little bit there still. She also challenges Baelish She says, you know, I can have Brienne cut you and you'll be powerless against it. But, you know, that's really not Baelish's MO. He could be anywhere and some warrior could try to cut him down and he'd be powerless. You know, that's not how Baelish gets his power. He gets his power behind the scenes. He's the guy behind the guy usually. I'm sure. I think his plan is to come to the forefront a little bit, but I think, you know, it's also moving how she's not baited with the army he tries to give her. He tries to give her this army similar to how he gave Robin Arryn the Falcon last week. He gives Robin Arryn the Falcon. Robin loves it. He tries to give Sansa obviously a much bigger gift here with a 10,000 person Vale army, but Sansa's not taking it, at least not yet. She's not taking it. And the other big info from the scene, obviously, is that the Blackfish, apparently per Baelish, has retaken Riverrun and assembled some of the Tully and Riverland forces there. Do you think the Blackfish has really done this?
I'm gonna say no.
No?
Only for one reason. That's because in the trailers, you know, obviously overanalyzing the trailer here, but we see Lannister forces at Riverrun, obviously encamped there, just like they are in the book.
Yeah.
So I would assume that maybe he has retaken Riverrun, but they are currently under siege by the Lannisters, and that's kind of an awkward situation that Brienne is heading to because she obviously has feelings towards Jaime, and she's carrying a Lannister sword, and you know she has allegiances to kind of both parties now.
And remind me in the show, I don't think Brienne and the Blackfish have ever met really, or Brienne or the Blackfish and Podrick. So you know Brienne's going to walk in there if the Blackfish does indeed hold Riverrun, and if he still holds Riverrun when Brienne gets there, you know, how much weight is she really going to carry? She's going to say, hey, you know, I'm your niece's daughter. You know, I'm an emissary from your niece's daughter. But, you know, how many forces does the Blackfish really have? And if he is really able to assemble all these forces and go north to help the Starks, at some point they're going to need to cross through the Twins. And how are they going to do that with that army? I think, you know, we referenced a little bit this question, this episode, it gave us a lot of answers, but it also opened up a lot more questions, I feel like, too.
I agree.
So we move to a scene I really liked here. We have Arya and the Waif in Braavos. We get a little fight scene going on between Arya and the Waif. You know, the Waif's hand-to-hand combat there was pretty badass, I have to admit. She was definitely badass.
Yeah, like she's a mixed martial artist, and Arya only is learning one little piece at a time.
Yeah, and you know, the Waif doesn't seem to get a lot of love. A lot of people aren't big fans of the Waif, but I'm thinking the Waif actually sees Arya for what she is right now. She sees that Arya truly is not going to become no one, and she's basically just telling her to stop and to go away. And Jaqen is bringing her further along down this path. And for as much as, you know, even I don't like the Waif, it seems like she's trying to tell Arya what's going to end up being best for her. Maybe in the long run, maybe not right this second, but in the long run, what'll probably be best.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a fairly consistent theme where the Waif is basically calling her Arya and the Stark Girl. And then we see Jaqen kind of reaffirm it later on, like basically saying that, you know, maybe she's right.
Yeah.
I felt it was kind of a unique situation where, you know, she sent off on this mission and she's sent right to this theater play. You know, how ironic is it that it's all about the downfall of Ned Stark and Sansa being, you know, basically married off to Tyrion Lannister. And you can see the emotion just across Arya's face here in this next scene. And you can see where she's, you know, struggling with that. I mean, go back to the scene where she had to give up every one of her possessions, but she saved Needle. So, you know, I think the way is correct here that, you know, Arya is not really willing to part with her past, and she'll always be Arya Stark, no matter how many times she says she's no one.
Yeah, and you talked about Jaqen reaffirming it there. You know, he also, there's a little quote later on where she says, you know, can I take a face from the hole? And Jaqen says, you're not ready for that. You know, though he may have some long run prospects for, he knows she's not no one yet. We know last time that the faces from last season, the faces are poisonous or cause blindness if you're not truly no one. So he's not ready to give Arya that face yet. I also liked Jaqen's quote. It really kind of foreshadows Hodor, I think, a little bit later when he says, does death only come for the wicked and leave the decent behind? Which, you know, is kind of a theme across all the seasons of Game of Thrones, every episode, that, you know, it's going to come for everybody no matter where you are and what you act like.
And kind of to bounce off that, another quote he says, which is also kind of foreshadowing Hodor, is he said, servants don't ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
And Hodor's basically like your quintessential servant. He's Bran's servant throughout his entire life, and Bran has, you know, created Hodor. And Hodor has known no other duty than to serve Bran, and he can't even ask a question. And he
physically he can't.
Yeah,
literally. So we also got this great theater troupe scene you mentioned. You know, I like this. This reminded me of a kind of the Previously On, except a little bit funnier and a little bit better. You mentioned they showed Sansa being kind of sold off to Tyrion. You know, if Arya doesn't really know what happened in Westeros after she left, then she's going to have a very different view of Tyrion than what's actually happened and what actually happened with her and Sansa. And could that play an effect later? I think it may. If she ever kind of runs across. Tyrion's in Essos with her as well. Not only that, but we get a little bit of background on the Faceless Men as well. That there was the slaves who founded Braavos, that they were originally, the first Faceless Man was a slave of the Valyrians. You know, and eventually the doom happened in Valyria. They left and formed Braavos, the freed slaves. So do the Faceless Men really like dragons? Are they really against dragons? Could that be a way that the Faceless Men come into the fold in the upcoming episodes and upcoming season? Because I think the Faceless Men need to come into the main story some way, whether it's just sending Arya on a mission or kind of the Faceless Men as a whole here.
Yeah, 2 points here. I mean, Daenerys is the breaker of chains, so she's freeing the remaining slaves in the world, or fighting to free the remaining slaves in the world.
That's true.
So you would think that the Faceless Men would kind of like Daenerys and what she's doing, rather than be against the rise of the Targaryens, which represent Valyria. And the second part, Arya challenges Jaqen and basically, you know, asks who is paying the iron price for the death of Lady Crane. And he's like, servants don't ask questions. Is there a link between the Faceless Men and the Iron Bank of Braavos?
Oh, that's true.
Maybe the Iron Bank and the debt that the Lannisters and the Red King's Landing owes to the Iron Bank is what's going to eventually bring the Faceless Men to Westeros and Arya to Westeros as this assassin for the Iron Bank.
Yeah, we haven't learned too much about the price. You know, it would seem if this younger actress was able to pay a price. I feel like in the books they haven't really delved too much of it into it in the show, but in the books you kind of get the feeling that it's kind of a sliding scale price there. You know, you're going to give up an amount of money that is relative to how much money you have or how much worth you have. If you have 10 silvers to your name, you're going to have to give up 8 of them. If you have 100, you're going to have to give up 80 of them. So it seems like, you know, the Iron Bank may be able to go there and maybe request Cersei kind of be taken out. And that's a name off Arya's list there. And it's also, I think, a little bit fitting that she is sent to kill the actress who plays Cersei. And there's Cersei, another Cersei off her list.
Interesting. Very interesting indeed.
So, you know, we get a Bran flashback that we'll touch on a little bit later. So next scene after that, we get the King Smoot. Famous King Smoot here. This was a scene, it wasn't my favorite, let's say. I wasn't too down on the King Smoot. I didn't dislike it royally, but there were definitely some little things in there I wasn't a big fan of. First of all, we get about 15, maybe 16 people there. You know, you would have thought there'd be a lot more people there to watch the King Smoot rather than, you know, a couple of their buddies. It seemed like everybody had Kraken shields. So, you know, what about the other houses in the Iron Islands? Now, I could have missed a few, but all I saw were the Kraken shields there. What I did like about it, though, I really liked the montage at the end. I like how, you know, besides the logistics of Yara running away and Theon running away, I really, you know, I like the montage scene. I like that we got a longer drowning scene there. I thought that was cool. I like the driftwood crown being introduced and putting that on Euron's head. But it really seemed like, you know, and you tell me if you think the same, it seemed like Yara said, I'm going to build a big fleet. Then Euron said, I'm going to build a big fleet. And then Yara said, no, I am. And then they kind of went back and forth on that a little bit until Euron said, well, no, I'm going to go get Dany, and I'll be Dany's paramour, basically.
Yeah, I mean, the whole scene was kind of disappointing. And even on, like, second and third viewings, I think it's, you know, a really disappointing scene. It's probably one of the scenes from the books that was most different than I imagined it in the show. For those who don't know, I mean, the scene in the book, it's, you know, I believe it's taking place at night. There's all these different houses from the Iron Islands there, and it's the King's Moot's taking place within the rib cage of a kraken. It just feels like a scene out of, like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like the graveyard in Harry Potter when they bring back Voldemort. Like,
yeah,
that's like kind of what I, you know, imagined it, you know, being like. And has really dark, moody scene with these people, you know, presenting their cases, you know, to claim the Driftwood Crown. And all we get is basically Yara and, you know, giving a pretty lame speech, and then Euron coming in and giving, you know, kind of one-upping her and making fun of Theon. And I mean,
yeah,
it wasn't really. I feel like they could have done so much more.
I have to say I'm okay with the dick jokes he threw in there, because that seems to me that would be one of Euron's, you know, best points. Is, you know, Theon can't reproduce an heir. He's not really Ironborn, you know.
Yeah.
But maybe he harped on it a little bit too far. But you know, the other thing I noticed, you know, in the books we get a kind of charismatic Euron, a guy that's almost not magical, but a little bit magical, and he has this little aura about him, and he almost seemed a little thuggish in the show. You know, he was just going to push him out of the way, and he was going to do it no matter what, which is a different avenue to take. I didn't like the fact that he just comes out and says, yeah, I killed Balon, whatever. It kind of makes the whole Iron Islands people, like, just a little bit worse for me, that they just don't care about kinslaying at all, and they don't care about somebody killing their king.
Yeah.
Which, you know, you kind of fits a little bit, but
It's almost as if they combined Euron and Victarion.
Yeah,
in a way,
that does make sense there.
like
yeah.
the strength and the brawn, rather than Euron is kind of seems like a very sly character. Seems a little flamboyant in the books.
Yeah, exactly.
In the show is a completely different person.
The other thing about the King Smoot that I noticed, he though I did like before we get to that, I did like Theon, you know, coming up and still sticking by Yara, even though somebody says, you know, well, what about Theon? What about Balon's true son? You know, Theon still sticks by Yara. He still gives her support. You know, shows his slow development there back into Ironborn. His speech could have been a little bit better, but he still sticks by her. And you know, they make fun of Theon for capturing Winterfell, a castle he couldn't hold, and then getting tortured. It's like, he captured Winterfell. You know, that's like the greatest thing an Ironborn has done in like 100 years, you know? It seems like they would revere him for that. not just, kind of make fun of him for it. And he loses it, but he also, he was ready to stay to the man there and die there in Winterfell to keep what he earned, and he paid the iron price for.
Yeah.
But, they're not a big fan of that, I guess, in the Iron Islands, losing it.
Too much gallivanting around. Gallivanting, yeah.
So the other thing I noticed was, Euron's going through the reasons why he's going to go to Dany. She hates everybody too. She has a huge army. She's got all these 3 dragons. And then he also says that he's going to bring her the ships that she needs to take them to Westeros. How does Euron know she needs ships? Does he know about what happened in episode 1? We don't get him introduced until episode 2. So technically the way travel works there, he could have had time maybe to sail back to the Iron Islands. I don't know how much time passed between then. But, it's just interesting to ponder a little bit there.
Yeah, I think it's just part of the show's increasingly abuse of time and distances for the sake of moving the show forward. Like how Littlefinger can just apparate into Moletown with an army at his back. It's just
they're cutting out a lot of the travel scenes here and the time it would take and the in between times here.
Yeah.
We also anything else about the Kingsmoot you wanted to bring up?
No, I think I'm good with that.
So let's go ahead and move to the next scene. We get a little Dany and Jorah scene with Dario watching in the background. We get Jorah admitting that he always loved Dany. I wasn't a huge fan of this scene. I didn't really like the ending where she says, you always obey. You said you'd always obey me, and now I command you to go find a cure. It's that's probably what he was going to do anyway, Dany, okay? You don't need to tell him to do. What else was he going to do? He was going to go, join a free company around there.
He's going to go straight to Old Valyria and join the Stone Men.
Yeah, there you go. Find the Stone Man who gave it to him.
Yeah, and then just brood over losing Dany.
Yeah, probably. But, he also tells her Tyrion was right about the loving. Is that going to let Dany trust him a little bit more? Maybe. I don't know. Wasn't really much in this scene. It was just okay for me. I just didn't like that last little end a bit there. Do you have anything about this scene? Right?
Well, just to think about, how is he going to find the cure? And this is kind of touching on the books here. We do know that a character that's in the books that is no longer won't be in the show is Victarion, which is Euron's younger brother or older brother.
Younger, I think.
Okay, maybe younger brother, but really badass character. And in the books, something happens to his arm, and a red priest, or am I right here?
Yeah, Red Priest.
The Red Priest basically gives him this magic arm, this firearm. So I'm wondering if this is going to be another example where you have bits and pieces of Victarion's story kind of transfer to another character in this case.
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking along that same lines, there was a certain character who isn't going to be introduced to the show, similar to Victarion. And in the books, Jorah doesn't get grayscale. At least not up to the point where the books end. And, it seems like the Meereen plot line is well past that now. So, we have this character who gets cut, who gets grayscale in the books, and now they transfer that grayscale over to Jorah, though. So they made a point to keep that grayscale in the show. So is the grayscale going to come into effect later on? Did Jorah give it to anybody? If he comes back, do you think he may give it to anybody in the future? So I think the grayscale might play an effect in the future, whether he already did or he's going to. Quick question: do you think we'll see Jorah again?
Definitely. There's
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think we're not going to see him again.
I was thinking for a second that that could just be the last we see of Jorah, but he's been one of the main characters in the show. He's been in it since episode 1, really. Either 1 or 2. Khaleesi's Dany's wedding there. So he's not maybe one of the top characters, but he's one of the most prominent characters that have been in it since the beginning. One of those second tier.
I think we might not see him for the rest of the season, but I do see him coming back into the show and playing a fairly prominent role at Dany's side.
Okay. So then we stay in Meereen then, or stay in Essos, and we get a quick scene with Tyrion, Varys, Missandei, and Grey Worm, kind of talking about how this fragile peace has taken over. And then we get Varys Tyrion with the Red Priest Kinvara. I like this scene. I like Varys and the Red Priest kind of going at each other there. I like how you don't really usually see people get the best of Varys too often. I mean, she seemed to there. She definitely seemed to.
Okay, I want to go back a little bit here. In the first scene, we see Sansa get the best of Littlefinger.
Yeah, it's true.
Scene kind of plays out like the opposite. You have Varys and Littlefinger basically being like the two key chess players in this game on either side of the world now. And in this case, we have Varys coming out strong, trying to get the upper hand of this new character, Kinvara. And then we just see Kinvara get the upper hand of him. Kind of like Littlefinger kind of planting that seed in Sansa and maybe one-upping her there at the end a little bit too. But I thought this scene was really good. Varys was obviously very, very freaked out by this. But it's just an example of a Red Priestess kind of doing one of those nothing Jon Snow's
moments, yeah. And I liked how Kinvara there, she says Dany was the one who was promised. Very similar to Melisandre, how she said Jon was now the prince that was promised, who she previously thought Stannis was. So, I know book readers have long thought, is it Jon who was the prince that was promised? Is it Dany? Is she going to be it? Is there going to be one person that becomes it? And it almost seems like the show is taking the stance, too, that we're going to have these two kind of factions who are thinking that either of these people are the prince that was promised come again here, which I could see kind of coming to a clash eventually.
And is Tyrion going to be the deal breaker there?
Yeah, he's going to be.
The prince that was promised.
Yeah, well, it's funny because, he's with Dany now, but we do get those few scenes at the beginning of the series when he was with Jon heading up to the wall and then at the wall. And I can't think of too many characters that have been with both Jon and Dany in the series. I actually can't even think of another one throughout the entire series offhand.
I could be wrong here, but doesn't Tyrion kind of respect Jon?
Oh, yeah. They have a little friendship by the end.
Yeah. I think he sees a lot of himself in Jon because thinking back to the name of the episode title, was it Bastards, Cripples, and Broken Things?
Yep.
Yeah.
The only other thing I noticed here that I really liked was besides Tyrion using Varys' own line against him, who said anything about him? It seems like, to me anyway, they were making a little bit of a parallel between the dragons and the White Walkers. Obviously they're on opposite sides here. And we'll talk a little bit more about the White Walkers later, but, they're made from obsidian, which is frozen fire, the dragon glass on the White Walkers. We have the dragons, who Kinvara says is fire made flesh compared to the frozen fire. We see the White Walkers coming in and just killing thousands of people, invading, and you have the dragons, who Kinvara says is going to come in and purify thousands by killing them. You have just this impending invasion of Dany and the dragons compared to this impending invasion of the White Walkers. You have Bran and the Three-Eyed Crow. You have their visions. You have the visions and the fire from the Red Priests. I think there's a lot of similarities playing out on both sides here.
Yeah, and who's to say that those thousands of people that are going to be purified by Dragonflame aren't just the army of the dead?
Yeah, it could definitely be. She even references, we'll help you in this battle and the great battle to come.
Yeah, definitely setting the scene. The Song of Ice and Fire playing out before our very eyes.
So the last non north of the wall scene we get here is the little round table up at the wall. We get Sansa lying to Jon about where she heard about the Blackfish. We get another Manderley name drop here. This is the second Manderley name drop, second or third we've gotten this season. So I think we're definitely going to see some Manderleys later on. Yeah, I think, and the Blackfish, the legend of the Blackfish, definitely. Davos. Sansa sends Brienne to Riverrun, which we mentioned. She gives Jon a nice Ned cloak. And out of all that, still the best part of that scene for me was Tormund's nice little smile at Brienne. Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
So, I like this scene. It was a good thing. I think it was a little bit another of a setup scene here. But you see Sansa, and they referenced this in the inside the episode D&D did. You see her playing a little bit of the Littlefinger game here, lying, trying to manipulate people. Like you said, she compares Jon to Ramsay, which to me I took as more of, everyone sees Ramsay as Roos's son, so they might see Jon as Ned's son too, But I think it was all in all a good scene here.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It's, Sansa kind of exerting her influence over the decision-making process. She not only challenges everyone's roles, but she challenges Davos as having this knowledge of the North. And I kind of like Davos's response where he's like, I don't know the North, but I know men. And, most men don't want to see their wives and their children flayed. I thought that was a touch there. And I really liked the opening scene where Sansa's, obviously making the clothing, which is reminiscent of one of the first scenes in the first episode. But also the actual clothing she makes. She makes herself a northern outfit, and on it you have a direwolf emblazoned by blue roses, which harkens back to Lyanna Stark and her favorite flower, the blue rose.
Yeah, and not only just, she's making herself a northern dress there, but, that first season of the first episode of the first season, she's there making a dress for herself. She's making a nice summer dress for herself. And now all these seasons later, you see her making and sewing a nice winter Stark outfit here. And her sewing Ned's outfit here, which I think, is Jon. I think that's, kind of to symbolize a little bit Jon taking on the Ned role a little bit.
Yeah.
Which, we've learned isn't 100% what we thought it was maybe at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, good points. I mean, Jon is, could be assuming, the role of patriarch here, but it seems Sansa what's to say in the decision-making process. But maybe she's using Jon.
Yeah, and she wants her. She definitely wants her own army here. Like Littlefinger kind of planted that seed in her. That sounded wrong, but Littlefinger planted that seed in her head. Let's say about wanting an old army, her own army. And she's. It'll be interesting to see. Are they all going to go together to the Mormonts and then the Glovers, or are they all going to split up? And you see Sansa go to the Glovers and Davos go to the Mormonts and Jon go to the Manderleys, and are they all going to split up? And you'll see Sansa giving very different pitches than you see Jon giving, and it'll be interesting to see how they go about handling that.
Yeah, we know Bran's going to Riverrun. I think from the trailer we know that Davos is going to Bear Island, and I'm very interested to see if Jon and Sansa split up. I kind of don't see that happen. I feel like they're going to be the two that go and visit the Manderleys. But
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
to visit the Mandalays, you basically have to go through and past Winterfell, and you have to pass the Umbers, you have to pass the Karstarks, past Bolton territory. I mean,
Yeah,
and you're right by the Freys too. So it's kind of an awkward mission that they're going on. And when they get to the Mandalays, is it going to be like the scene from the book where there's Freys there and there's Lannisters there?
Yeah, Roose certainly seemed to think before he died that he could get the Karstarks, Umbers, and Manderleys on his side. So we've seen the Karstarks and Umbers come. What about the Manderleys? They, you would think that's where they're going. They've mentioned that they have the biggest army really that hasn't declared for either or. So you'd think they'd send their most prominent figures over there. So let's jump right in a little bit more north. Let's go up to the cave. We start out, we get a flashback. Children of the Forest made the White Walkers. I would have loved this scene to be a little bit longer. It was pretty quick.
It was very quick.
Yeah, but it was, it's still a good scene. This is like one of the biggest mysteries of the story. How did the White Walkers come to be? And you realize that it was the Children of the Forest, and not only was it them, but they were doing it as a defense from man. Exactly what the White Walkers are still after.
And not only are they creating the White Walkers and the Night's King, they're creating winter. It's like the little origin of winter, like the heart of winter, where the sacrifice went down.
Yeah, you see it very green and lush, and there's trees, there's grass, there's everything there when he visits originally, and then he goes back and it's nothing but ice and dead things. So good scene. Another little note: the actor who was stabbed, I took that as that was the Night's King. That was the same actor who plays the Night's King.
Is it?
Yeah, that actor is also the actor who plays the Night's King. Just this season, they recast the Night's King this season to an actual person rather than CGI. So, it should be interesting. I took that as that was the Night's King they were making, though.
So did I.
So we get that great reveal, and then we get Bran kind of going back to the land of always winter. He's walking through the Whites, goes back to that same place. And then eventually the Night's King sees him and is able to kind of grab his arm there. And now he's able to get into that cave. Those wards are now broken, that Bran is in the cave and he can get in there. And so when he was walking through the Whites, I half expected him to run across a few people we knew.
Yeah.
Maybe I forget what her name was in the show, the woman from Hardhome who John was talking to, expected her have to be there. I expected him to run across Benjen.
Yeah.
We get a little shot of Benjen there. We haven't seen him in a while. Let me ask you this question, though. When he goes there, did you take this as this was the present day just somewhere else, or this was the past at some point?
I think I took it as the present day.
Me too.
That he just doesn't have the wherewithal or the ability yet to, determine when and what time period he's going back to, and it was on his mind, and he went basically to the present day, and hence why I think the Night's King was able to kind of sense
him there.
But going back to your original thing, I was thinking the same exact thing when I was walking through that crowd of the dead. I was waiting to see the people I know. And I had the same exact feeling the first time Arya went into the Hall of Faces. I was like, man, is Syrio Forel going to be on the wall? Where is he? I really wanted to see Syrio Forel's face on the wall.
Yeah. They the other interesting thing I thought was, those walkers and the Whites, they were just frozen there. They were not moving at all. It's almost like, they weren't on a mission to go kill, so they literally did nothing.
Yeah.
They were just frozen in place. And the Night's King sees him. How did the Night's King actually see Bran? No one else could.
Mm-hmm.
It gets you to think, the Children of the Forest probably, the Night's King originally as human could he have been a Green Seer himself? You know, does he have additional powers that kind of go beyond just the Walker powers?
You're right. It kind of seems like he's working all of the undead simultaneously, because they, you know, when Bran sees the Night's King, he turns around and all the dead turn around and are staring at him, and then he turns back around and there's the Night's King who grabbed his arm. It seems as if, you know, we saw it in the previous episode where the Hardhome episode, where, you know, all the undead attack and he send them over the cliff. It's as if he's controlling and manipulating them, and he raises them from the dead at the end.
Yeah. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see kind of going forward if we get a little bit more backstory. You know, did the Children of the Forest originally have control over the Walkers and the Whites? If so, when did they lose control over them? It'll be interesting to see that as we go forward. Is this why the men and the children eventually created a pact to fight the White Walkers? And, you know, just the way that they were able to kind of manipulate the ice, I'm starting to think that, you know, some of these legends of the past, like specifically the Wall, wasn't built potentially to keep the Walkers out or keep the wildlings out. It could have been built by the White Walkers to keep men out of the North when they were still on the side of the Children of the Forest. And then obviously, you know, we get this last great scene, this great cave battle scene. You know, I was really liking Mira a lot more too. I almost, you know, looked at her for one of my most likable characters so far this season. You know, I've never been a huge fan, but just some of the moves she makes here, just trying to protect Bran no matter what. That ring of fire they created was basically useless for a second, and then they climbed up the cliffs and then just jumped right in. Slowed them down for half a second. But that seemed like what it was about, just slowing them down for 15 seconds or 20 seconds, because that's really what they needed at the end.
Yeah, I like the little touches. I mean, when Bran and the Three-Eyed Raven are warging, and the way Mira senses that the Whites are there and the Night's King's there, as she sees her breath. And
yeah.
Hodor's breath and Bran's breath. And then I like how she, you know, runs out of the cave and you hear the White Walker music play, and then she sees them all. I thought that was a very good scene. And you're right, the Ring of Fire was kind of useless, but only for the others.
Yeah.
The Whites had to, you know, climb up onto the tree itself and dig through the roots. So it bought them a lot of time.
It was interesting to see too that the fire was just completely useless against the White Walkers. You know, they just parted it and walked right through. So if the dragons eventually do come, you know, is dragon fire going to be the same thing? Or will, you know, dragon steel, dragon glass all has an effect on them? Will dragon fire have an effect on them?
Yeah.
And then we get as they're going out, we get a bunch of sacrifices here. You know, obviously, I like the visual effect of the Three-Eyed Raven there inside of Winterfell. You know, Summer sacrificing himself. I wish he would have taken a few more Whites out with him, but, you know, there's no better way, I feel like, for a direwolf to go out than protecting and trying to save their master there or their companion. And then you got, obviously, Leaf, who I thought it was interesting and a good theme there that originally, you know, she created the White Walkers to save herself and save himself for man. And then now she's sacrificing herself to save man from the White Walkers and the Whites, which I thought was good. And I like the visual effects of that scene as well, and the music going on behind Leaf before she does that. And obviously you have the big one with Hodor at the end, which, you know, was one of the most emotional scenes so far of the entire series for me. You know, I have to admit, I almost cried there at the end when Hodor was going. You know, I don't know how much of a game-changing death he's going to have as far as the series moving forward. Kind of like the Red Wedding was game-changing as far as what's going to happen, but that doesn't make it any less emotional. You know, and you don't want to see him go any less because of that.
Yeah, for a singular death, it doesn't get much more sad than Hodor, the perfect servant.
Yeah.
The mentally crippled boy, or part giant, giving his life to his master, in this case, Bran, who, Bran is there because of Hodor. Hodor literally carried him the entire way to the north, and carried him everywhere for that matter. And now that vehicle of Hodor is now gone. So very, very powerful scene. I have a question for you. At what moment did you realize that Hodor was going to die and that Hold the Door was actually Hodor?
So, as I'm remembering the first time I watched it, I was thinking to myself, okay, Hodor's going to close the door, but that's going to stop him for like a second.
Yeah.
They're just going to bust right out. And, what's that going to do? Is there a way to lock the door? But they'll just get right through it anyway. And then when I see him hold it kind of backwards, he turns backwards. And then you see Meera kind of going away. At that part, I knew that it was the end for Hodor. And when she started saying hold the door, when Meera started saying it, is when I kind of assumed, okay, well, that's how Hodor's name came in there. I still 100% don't really understand what happened to make Hodor, simple and only be able to repeat Hodor, the logistics of it, let's say. But I don't know if I really need to necessarily 100% understand it. It's still very powerful. What about you?
Yeah, I thought the directing of the scene was very, very well done. The person that directed it was also the director of one of the directors of Lost, which is one of your favorite shows.
Yeah, that was his first Game of Thrones show he directed to, first episode.
Yeah, and so I really liked the interwoven scenes there, going from the cave and back to Winterfell. I like the Winterfell aspect of it because you kind of see Bran hearing things in the past and hearing things in the present, and then Raven's basically like, listen to your friends, Bran. And then Bran realizes that I have to warn Hodor in the past.
Yeah, for him to hold the door there.
For him to, be active in the present. And, initially he's kind of struggling with what are the ramifications of me doing this? And I thought it was a nice touch when he does warg Hodor in the past. He gets that like scar on the side of his face, that like red line.
Oh yeah.
That Hodor's always had, and obviously he has like a seizure of sorts, and he's because Hodor, he's basically being simultaneously warged in the past and present. I guess it's just too much for his mind to handle, and the origin of Hodor, probably the most crazy, saddest thing that's happened on the show by far, and just shows you how powerful George R.R. Martin is.
Yeah, because this was ripped right out.
Setting all this up, and planning this ahead of time, like the origin story of Hodor. Like, that just shows you how badass George R.R. Martin is. Like, none of us, even D&D, they never would have thought of that.
No.
They were just left to their means to create this, but leave it to George to be like, hey, you should probably do this.
Yeah, so, a scene like that, it has, obviously, in a normal situation, it has, and in normal shows, it has some type of emotional weight that comes with it. But the fact that they're setting this up from the very beginning, from that first season, they've been setting this up all the way through all the seasons and just showing the relationship with them, having Hodor in that first season, it just carries that much more emotional weight with it. And then when he was holding the door there at the very end, and after kind of Bran goes away and can't really see him in the present anymore, do you think he was warging in there while he's holding the door, literally?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
only. Actually, that's an interesting point. Like, at what point is he working? What point does he stop working him? Is Hodor just then sacrificing himself willingly? I feel like
Yeah.
Hodor doesn't really hasn't like in like Mira, was trying to get him to like get up with all this commotion going on.
Yeah.
And he
He
wouldn't
want to get up.
Okay. And another thing I thought of, if you go back and you look at certain scenes in previous episodes with Hodor, like he gets flustered and like scared with like really loud noises, like the scene where they're in the tower and the thunderstorm comes.
Yep.
And the thunder's going off and Hodor's just freaking out. Like Hodor, Hodor, Hodor. It's all just that PTSD from the origin of Hodor, of holding the door and all that chaos. I mean, it's amazing how all that's just set up for.
Yeah, I forgot about that tower scene. It just shows you, how exactly how long they've been setting this up, and they know exactly, what was coming. Obviously that Hodor scene was powerful. That's probably the most powerful death on the series to date. Maybe Ned's, but you only got a season with Ned. You got 5.5 seasons with Hodor, even though he might not even have had as much screen time as Ned did that in that first season. Probably similar though.
Yeah, you gotta look at it from the perspective that Hodor is like this beloved character. Probably no fan. Like, how could you not like the character Hodor? And Hodor is like the most innocent person in this Game of Thrones, where everyone else is scheming and challenging each other and plotting, power, greed, and money. And then there's Hodor, a simpleton.
Yeah, there's, like you said, I can't see how you couldn't like Hodor. He would have to be the most universally loved person in the show even before this. But again, just same with Summer. I don't think there's a better way to go out. If you're gonna go out, I don't think there's a better way to go out than that. Also, well, go ahead.
And you haven't brought it up yet. I was waiting for you to do it, but the Summer's death, the end of summer, and the beginning of winter.
Yeah, I mean that was just, that was very, very symbolic there. I mean, you have Summer, same with Hodor and Summer kind of going out and sacrificing themselves to give Bran an extra chance there, a fighting chance to get away, buy him some time. But you literally have Summer kind of giving way to Winter there. Winter's coming in and literally takes over and engulfs Summer. Not only that, but this is also kind of this has been Bran's summer. He was at Winterfell, and now he's going north, and this is the first time Bran is literally seeing these people, his closest allies and friends, die right in front of him. He's obviously lost. He saw Roderick die, and he saw Jojen die, and he heard about Ned. But this is everybody just right in front of him. And now Bran's literally just out in the winter. And I think this is going to be a little bit darker of a time for Bran. He's giving way to Winter essentially as well. And, who knows what's going to happen with Bran in the future. I know there's theories about Bran kind of teaming up with the Night's King and with the White Walkers. I don't know how much I buy that. But if that's true, then all of a sudden you have Bran kind of literally giving away Summer and literally joining Winter's team there. I think that Bran and Mira will be able to make a nice little escape here. It seems like these Whites should be kind of coming right after them pretty soon. I hope they'll make it, whatever the escape is. I hope they'll make it realistic here. Not just them kind of running away and forgetting that the Whites were right behind them.
Yeah.
It looks like
Mira slowly dragging a sled with Bran on it through snow in the coldest place in the world. Obviously someone's going to rescue them. And you have
it has to be
theories as to who's going to be this character that randomly just saves Bran and Mira from certain death.
Yeah, and to me, I don't know. Obviously, we haven't read this far in the books, or, the books haven't touched this far. But I have to go with Benjen. I have to go with Benjen. I don't know who it's going to be. It might not be him, but to me, that makes the most sense. Benjen was lost north of the wall. Three-Eyed Raven, he met up with the Three-Eyed Raven, and he said, there's going to be a point when Bran's out here, and you need to be here to save him and Mira, or to at least save Bran. And I could see Benjen staying up north for that and kind of stopping or not giving up his Night's Watch vows, but almost taking a break from him for a second, because this is going to be for the greater good here.
Yeah, I mean, and going back to that long-held belief that there always must be Stark on the wall, and if Jon is leaving the wall, what better time than to bring Benjen back into the fold? Yeah,
and we've also seen Benjen already twice this season. We haven't seen Benjen in 5 years in show, but we've seen him twice this season inside Winterfell as a youngster there.
Yeah.
So they're almost bringing him back a little bit, so you remember this other Stark that everyone seems to forget about sometimes. One of 5 or 6 Starks left in the world. The other thing I was thinking, now that Bran's not attached to the tree anymore, is he still going to be able to have visions and go somewhere? I think he will, but I'm not 100% on that.
Well, you've got to look at it. He is literally warging the entire time.
Yeah.
In the cave, and while he's outside of the cave, he's still warging. He's warging without touching the weirwood tree. Mm-hmm. So maybe he is still in the process of downloading the Three-Eyed Raven and everything that he needs to know. Or maybe he has now the Three-Eyed Raven where he doesn't have to be connected to anything to warg. Maybe he truly, maybe he becomes more powerful than the Three-Eyed Raven. Or maybe he's kind of on his own. We don't know.
I think he'll be able, definitely warg. I think he'll be able to have his visions as well, as far as the time jumps or the place jumps. I don't think he'll be able to affect anything really in the past like he did with Hodor. Let me say, I don't think he'll be able to change anything in the past. Anything that he's able to change in the past, we'll have already seen happen in the story, similar to Hodor. I know there's been theories, maybe he's able to go back and change the fact that he makes King Aerys go mad. I know that's a theory out there. Maybe Bran goes all the way back, and Bran was actually the one that built the wall. That's a theory out there. There's a bunch of theories out there, but, I don't think Bran's going to be able to change the story as we know it. I think any effect he's made has already happened, and we've already seen it. We just don't know it was Bran that did it yet.
Yeah, just use Hodor as the example for that. I think if you really open up a can of worms with time travel, it's just so complex, and it's just too much to think about. So I'm kind of along the lines of your thought there, like what has already happened has happened, but we just don't know what has been influenced by Bran.
Yeah, I really would, if that's it and that's all that he can do, that's fine. I'm okay with that. That's great. But if they really open up this time travel and, hey, he can now go back and save Ned and save Robb and save everybody and stop the White Walkers from being made, I won't like that. I don't think a lot of viewers will like that or appreciate that as much. So I trust that they won't do that. It's been such a good show so far and such a good book so far. They've made mostly right choices in the scheme of things. It's hard to think that they're just going to veer away that much from the choices they've made. So I kind of give them the benefit of the doubt on that they're not going to veer in such a strange direction there.
Yeah, I agree.
And I mean, the only other really thing that we haven't talked about that I have is, what is the White Walkers' kind of intention now, or what's their mission now? Is it still just to kind of eradicate humans, and they just added the Children of the Forest to that because they turned against each other? What's going to happen if they do eradicate the humans? What's their mission once it's complete? What happens to them? I feel like we're going to get some more motives of the White Walkers that, I don't want to say humanize them a little bit, but at least give you their motives of why they're doing all this. It's hard, we don't have many black and white characters right now, so it's hard to imagine that the walkers are going to be completely black here.
Yeah, I mean, just so many questions that are left unanswered with this episode. I think this episode, going back to what I said earlier, I think has moved the story forward into uncharted territory where book readers don't really know where it's going, or they're flustered for the first time. It's hard for us to predict because of this can of worms that is time travel, and Bran's ability, and how far does his abilities go, and what has he influenced, and what can the White Walkers do, what do they want to do? It's just tough to even think about.
Yeah, I think this episode, to what you were saying, is kind of the dividing line there. Into all this uncharted territory. Even the first few episodes, you kind of knew a lot of that from the books, and some of it you kind of could have surmised from the books because it was going to be the first few chapters of the next book. But this is that dividing line, that the majority of the stuff that happens here on out, if maybe not almost every scene that happens here on out, is just kind of going to be completely new, and you're not going to expect it all. And the Night Walk, as soon as the Night King touches Bran, he rushes to that cave. He brings everybody to that cave. What is so important about Bran and the Three-Eyed Crow that they have to rush there and eliminate them right away, or at least get to them right away and eliminate the Three-Eyed Crow right away? What effect can Bran have on the White Walkers now? I don't know. So that was our episode review there. Do you have anything else you want to add? Like I said, this has been a great season for me and a great episode so far.
Yeah, I have to say that the season is great. It's kind of washing out the taste of last season from my mouth.
Absolutely.
So I'm really happy with it thus far. I'm looking forward to seeing where this uncharted territory goes. I mean, it's a great time to be watching the show. It's kind of upsetting that we don't get to read it first, but all of us, book reader and show watcher, are all on the same page now. We don't know.
Yeah, and I have to say that I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed that a little bit more than I thought I would, and I think that has increased my viewing experience as a whole. Is every scene that comes up, I'm not comparing it so much to a script, or hey, this is how it was in the books and this is how they did it in the show. It's just brand new, and this is something brand new I'm watching, and I can't say, hey, well, they did it like this in the books and they did it like this in the show, and this is what was different, and this is what I liked, and this is what didn't. Kind of it changes the viewing experience, and I think it's really heightened it for me, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's like watching the Red Wedding happen if you didn't know it was going to happen. Like, we didn't get the experience that we knew it was coming. Okay, this, like the whole hold the door scene with Hodor and the origin story of Hodor, that's like our Red Wedding.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's going to be more events like that we're going to be able to get to see and experience, and it's fairly exciting for that to happen, to have that visual experience, that visceral, emotional experience happen on screen rather than in a book.
Absolutely, it's definitely exciting. I don't really have much more to add, guys. Thank you so much for listening. As I said before, you can check us out on www.wildlingsports.com. You can find the podcast on Stitcher or SoundCloud. You can also check out wildlingsports.com for the list of our mid-season awards. You can also check out old NFL podcasts and NFL articles up there. As always, thanks for listening.
Later, guys.